I secretly loved him for 10 years. Never thought that even having his child was a mistake. He pushed me onto the operating table himself, saying, anyone in this world can have my baby, except you. He was now eager to meet the legendary Dr. William, and then tell him about Isabel Lopez's condition. Like a child, he felt that once he found this doctor, Isabel Lopez would be saved. All right, I'll check it right now. The assistant quickly took out his phone and started searching. Mr. Jason, the next flight to the US is in 3 hours. Jason Smith paused for a moment. 3 hours. It only takes an hour to get to the airport from here. He still had some time to go check on Isabel Lopez. Okay, book that flight. I'll head to the hospital first and someone will come pick me up later. Understood, Mr. Jason. With that, Jason Smith stood up from his office chair, grabbed his suit jacket from the back of the chair, and casually put it on. Take care of things here for me for now. I'll be back as soon as I can. Don't worry, Mr. Jason. He patted his assistant on the shoulder and then turned to leave. The assistant followed him all the way to the underground parking lot, saw him into the car, and they discussed work-related matters during the ride. In the hospital, Isabel Lopez was in her room. Isabel, don't be afraid. I'm going to find that doctor for you. Stay here and wait for me to come back. The response was the endless silence in the room. Jason Smith only reached out and gently touched her shiny black hair. He finally pressed a kiss to her forehead. By the time he did so, the phone call he had been waiting for came in, and he turned to leave the room. An hour later, at the airport, at the ticket counter, the plane slowly taxied down the runway and took off. At the same time, Latina Mera made a phone call. Hello? The other side picked up quickly. You can come in now. Okay, good. After receiving the call, Tony Camel entered from outside the hospital. He had been guarding Isabel Lopez for over 10 years, but since he found out about her relationship with Jason Smith, he had sought proof of their relationship and confessed to her. But she didn't respond. Over the years, he had stayed abroad, avoiding coming back because he was afraid to see her with another man. It pained him to think about it. All these years, he had kept himself distant from domestic matters, hoping to maintain a peaceful mind. But he never expected such a thing to happen. If Latina Mera hadn't called him, he would have never known. How could that man be so heartless, causing her to end up like this, in a vegetative state? Just thinking about it made him furious, and he wished he could tear that man apart. But now, he couldn't afford to do something so impulsive, so he worked with Latina Mera on this plan. Once they successfully lured Jason Smith away from B-City, he would have the time to take Isabel Lopez out of the hospital. With this thought, he clenched his hands and immediately walked into the hospital. He had visited Isabel Lopez's room countless times already, so he walked to her room with ease, executing the plan he had set up before. Take her as far as you can, Latina Mera said. I know, Tony Camel simply responded. He didn't like Latina Mera much either. After coming back, he had heard from his friends that ever since Latina Mera started dating Jason Smith, she had not been kind to Isabel Lopez. But for now, he could only suppress his hatred. After all, there was plenty of time ahead to deal with them. Tony Camel directly carried Isabel Lopez out of the hospital, and, after turning a corner, immediately got into a car. They went straight to a tall building in B-City, where they boarded a helicopter with Isabel Lopez and flew to the UK. Inside a villa in the UK, there were a group of doctors standing. Just tell me, is there still a chance for her to be treated in this condition? Tony Camel didn't understand some of the medical terms the doctors were using, so he directly asked this question. All the doctors spoke fluent Chinese, so there was no difficulty in understanding him. Mr. Tony, all I can say is that we will try our best, but there have been cases like this before, so just wait calmly. For this kind of illness, you can't rush it. Although there had been successful cases before, a vegetative state was still not clearly treatable in modern medicine, so it was necessary to wait for further developments. The key was to see if the patient had any will, if she wanted to wake up. Wait? Tony Camel said. How long do we have to wait? Give me a more specific time. Mr. Tony, I can't give you an answer on this. Even I don't know the exact time. He was still being honest. Oh, right. The doctor suddenly remembered something and said, when we examined the patient, we found that she is pregnant. What? Tony Camel felt like he had just heard a joke. A vegetative state? Pregnant? Yes, Mr. Tony. When we examined her, we found that she is indeed pregnant. Tony Camel. After the shock, he froze for a moment. That's impossible. How could this happen? Are you sure? I don't believe it. Mr. Tony, please trust our professional judgment. She really is pregnant, and it's been a month. A month. However, the information he received was that Isabel Lopez had been hospitalized and in a vegetative state for 2 weeks. But the baby was already a month along, which meant Jason Smith had caused her to fall into a vegetative state while she was pregnant. How could there be such a cruel man in this world? He really couldn't understand. He felt so bad for Isabel Lopez, seeing the woman he loved go through so much. His heart ached, he was angry, and he was heartbroken. Jason Smith was truly ruthless. But what about the child? What should be done with the child now? So, if this is really the case, what's your advice? He was a little unsettled, so he directly threw this question at the doctors. Doctor, our advice is to have the patient terminate the pregnancy. The patient is already struggling to maintain her health, and carrying a child will take more of her body's nutrients, which won't be beneficial for her recovery. So, we recommend terminating the pregnancy. Terminate. Terminate. Yes, Mr. Tony. We recommend terminating the pregnancy. But Isabel Lopez was still unconscious. No matter what, no matter how much he liked or loved her, this child was hers. She was the one involved, so now that she was unconscious, how could he make the decision for her? Mr. Tony, this is something that shouldn't be delayed. The sooner, the better. It will be more beneficial for the patient's health. What if? If the pregnancy is terminated, will there be any other harm to her? Miscarriage definitely brings harm, whether it's induced or natural. Based on the current condition of the patient, I think if the pregnancy is terminated, she might not be able to have children in the future. Not able to have children in the future. Not able to have children in the future. Not able to have children in the future. Those words repeated in Tony Camel's mind over and over again. He knew how important a child was to a woman. But now, the dilemma was Isabel Lopez's life. On one side was the child, on the other side was her. It was truly hard to decide. Mr. Tony, we know this may seem a bit cruel, but the child is still just a child, an unborn child. It's not that no one wants him, but the patient's body cannot bear it. Sometimes, when it's time to make a cut, it's necessary. After hearing the doctor's words, Tony Camel lowered his head, lost in thought. One hand supported his chin, resting on the back of the sofa. He couldn't describe what he was feeling right now. He felt that this was more difficult than signing a billion-dollar contract. Mr. Tony, please give me some time to think it over, Tony Camel said. All right, mister. Tony, just let us know when you've made up your mind, the doctor said. If there's nothing else for now, we'll step out and discuss how to handle Miss Isabel's condition. All right, thank you. It's our duty. The doctor then left, and Tony Camel was left alone in the hall. It was nighttime, and the lights in the hall were brightly shining. After sitting still on the sofa for a while, Tony Camel stood up and walked upstairs. He went straight to the room where Isabel Lopez was staying, and sat down next to her bed. His eyes were deep as he stared at Isabel Lopez, one large hand gently tracing her cheek. He kept staring at her, as if trying to find a hole in her to look through. In a daze, he thought back to the past, back when her father was still alive. They had grown up in the same courtyard. She had always been an independent girl, polite and gentle, but sometimes she could be very cute and also act coquettish. He remembered when she was little, and when she didn't get what she wanted, she would run downstairs. She would squat by the garden in the little courtyard, hugging her knees and burying her face in them, as if she had been greatly wronged. He was 6 years older than her, and had watched her grow up. He had liked her since he was young, and still liked her now. But he never imagined that later her father would pass away, and her mother would remarry, taking her along. He knew how powerful the Smith family was, and how wealthy they were. He also understood the gap between them at that time. So, he told himself that he had to shorten that gap, get closer to her, and make a successful career, then come to her and confess his feelings accumulated over the years. In his life, he only wanted to be with her. This belief had always been in his heart, and that's why he built the business empire he had now. But he never expected that when he finally built such a large empire to confess to her, he would hear her say she was already with Jason Smith. It was one evening. The two of them were at a cafe. He never thought it would turn out this way. Even though he knew she might have someone she liked, he never imagined that person would be Jason Smith. No way. This can't be true, Isabel. Are you lying to me to reject me? How could it be? I don't believe it. I really don't believe it. Tony, this is true. We just got together not long ago. But he's your... She paused for a moment, her face slightly reddening, but it was clear that she felt happiness in her expression. I know it sounds a bit absurd, but it's really true. We're together now. That day, he hurriedly left the cafe first. He didn't believe it, so the next day, he secretly followed her. He remembered that it was in a small grove, and if he wasn't mistaken, it was the small grove outside the Smith family villa. He personally saw them embrace and kiss. In that moment, his heart trembled violently, but he also understood that what Isabel Lopez had said was indeed true. Afterward, he left. Isabel, Tony Kamel said, "Why did you end up like this? Didn't you say you liked him? Why are you together? Why have I let go? Yet you're living like this. Why? Do you know how much it hurts to watch this? Do you know how much I love you? I've loved him so deeply that I can't extricate myself. Loved you for so many years, too afraid to go back and see you happy. Loved you for so many years, a woman I can't move on from. Loved you knowing you might be the wrong one, but still not wanting to give up." He spoke this long string of words, but Isabel Lopez heard nothing. "Isabel," he said, "I'm sorry. Maybe I don't know if this child is what you wanted, but for your life, I've made this decision for you. Whether you blame me when you wake up or not, you cannot have this child." Honestly, deep down, he didn't want this child either, because after all, who would want their beloved woman to have another man's child? But all that came back was silence. Complete silence in the room. Tony Kamel sat in the same spot for a long time. After a while, he finally stood up and walked toward the bathroom. After he finished his shower, a phone call came through to the doctors who had previously examined Isabel Lopez.